Welcome back, Cyber World. So, number 4 on my list is missing friends and family. No matter how exciting and fulfilling life in a new country can be, one of the hardest parts of moving abroad is the distance from friends and family. Living in Italy, as I do, might bring new adventures, but it also means missing out on important moments with the people you love back home. The pain of missing milestones and special occasions, birthdays, weddings, Christmas, and even small gatherings that you once took for granted can suddenly feel much more significant when you're far away. Watching friends celebrate major life events like getting married or having kids through social media instead of being there in person can bring a deep sense of fear of missing out, FOMO. Family events like Sunday dinners or casual coffee catch-ups may seem ordinary when you're in the UK, but once you're abroad, you realise just how much those little moments meant. Feeling like an outsider in your own circles. Over time, friendships can change. While you're having new experiences in a foreign country, mine being Italy, your friends and family back home are continuing their lives without you. It's easy to feel disconnected when you miss inside jokes, group chats, or the latest updates on their lives. Even when you do return to visit, you might notice that things aren't quite the same. People move on, dynamics shift, and sometimes it feels like you no longer fit in exactly the way you used to. The challenge of different time zones and communication. Although Italy, or a foreign country, and the UK are only an hour apart, keeping in touch isn't always easy. Life gets busy, schedules don't always align, and long distance communication isn't the same as face-to-face interactions. Zoom calls and WhatsApp messages help, but they can't fully replace being physically present for deep conversation, spontaneous meetups. Coping with loneliness and emotional challenges. There will always be days when the excitement of living in Italy or in any foreign country fades, and all you want is familiarity, comfort, and people who truly understand you. In those moments, homesickness can hit hard. Walking through a beautiful Italian piazza doesn't feel the same when all you crave is a Sunday roast with your family or a pint with old mates. How to deal with missing friends and family. Schedule regular calls, set a weekly or bi-weekly time to catch up with loved ones. Plan trips back home. Knowing you have a visit planned can help ease the emotional distance. Invite family and friends to visit. Sharing your new life with them can make you feel more connected. Find a local support network. Making new friends, both locals and fellow expats, can help reduce feelings of loneliness. Stay active in group chats. Even if you're far away, participating in conversations keeps you involved in their lives. Over time, you'll learn to balance your life in Italy or a foreign country with your love for home. The distance is hard, but it also makes you appreciate the relationships even more. So let's break that down. So, missing family and friends. My first real moment of clarity really about living so far away, it was all a great dream to move to this country. As I've said in previous videos, it was a welcomed adventure after the disappointment I saw from the fallout of Brexit and how people just generally changed, and you saw the rise of the right and the scummy people basically in my country, and I just wanted to get away. So it was a welcomed getaway to move to this country, but then along came COVID, and the realization really at that time, as much as now people's mindset has changed, especially mine, towards the whole pandemic, as some people call it, it basically turned out to all just be a complete farce, the whole pandemic and COVID. But at the time, I remember how scared a lot of us all were in our heads, and a lot of people's mindset has changed since COVID. I, for one, in fact, I don't even watch mass media anymore. From before the days of Brexit, I started thinking a lot of things were basically a lot of stuff that you see on mainstream news is just propaganda to just fill you full of fear. They want people just filled. So that was me when COVID came around. My only fear was that I'm thousands and thousands of miles away from both of my elderly parents who are in their 80s. And at that time, I dreaded the thought of, and I dread it even more now, but I dreaded the thought that either of my parents could die from COVID back in those times, and that I was stuck basically thousands of miles away, wasn't able to just jump on a plane. Now I think even more about it. If either of my parents die now, it basically means that I've got like a maybe at most an hour and a half car journey to the train to get to the airport. Then I've got to wait around at an airport for a flight. Then I've got a 2.5 hour flight back to England. Then I've got a possible another hour's worth of a journey to get back to my hometown. So you're looking at a good half a day at least to get back. So even if I get the dreaded phone call saying that one of my parents has only got a couple of hours to live, I'm basically in that predicament now that I'm thousands of miles away, and I've now got to put myself through the ordeal of having to travel. And I've basically discovered from living here, and as I say, the whole COVID thing, just the stress, the absolute stress of that, of having to get the whole COVID test, to be able to get onto the plane, and then getting back to England, having to do the COVID test again. That all became a massive stress, and being told that I wasn't able to fly at certain times back to my home country, that's where the realization came, basically, what I'd actually done, that I was miles away from anywhere, miles away from my family, and just the thought goes through my head every single time about my parents. As I say, they're in their 80s, and now all I think about is that I need to be there. I need to be in the UK. I feel a huge, massive amount of guilt. This all plays onto my mental health. As I say, going back to the whole COVID thing, the mental challenges in my brain of thinking, not just even my parents, my older sister, I also have a daughter who at that time, let's think, how old was she? She must have been 12, maybe 13. And, she had to go through the whole thing of not going to school and doing online schooling, and just the whole guilt of just thinking all of that time that I've lost, that I could have been helping with my parents. My parents have to look after my 12, 13-year-old nephew, who's a massive challenge in itself, and also my daughter at times. So I have this constant guilt in my head, just playing around in my head, thinking about my elderly parents having to go pick up my nephew Zach from school, having to go pick up my daughter from school, and taking them to, like, my daughter goes to a drama group, and sometimes my mum has to go take her to that. She has to pick her up. And this is my mum who's 85 now. My dad is at that point that even just walking up and down the stairs in my parents' house is a bit of a problem for him. So missing family and friends, it's just the guilt that I have to go through, thinking about having to miss out on things like my mum's birthday. I go back, as one of my previous videos, I went back in February and March, because my birthday's in February, my daughter's birthday's 2 weeks after mine in March. So I go back all the time for our birthdays, but I miss my dad's birthday in January because I have to alternate, because I have an ex-girlfriend who I have my now 16, my daughter. 1 year I will basically stay here in Italy for Christmas, and then the next year it's my ex's turn to have her at Christmas. So one way or another, I get to miss my dad's birthday in January. So if I'm back at Christmas in England, I then have to come back just after Christmas, usually the day after Boxing Day. I have to get on a plane, which, as I say, going back to COVID, it started to really irritate me just traveling. Before I moved to Italy, I was in that space where I thought COVID was a good thing because it stopped air travel. Now, regardless of what other people think, I personally believe that putting planes in the air and pumping all of this air fuel into the atmosphere is not good for the atmosphere, despite what people probably trying to tell you, oh yeah, it's all just made up, it's all just trying to fill you full of fear, like what I've just said about mainstream media. I do actually believe that jet fuel is not good for the atmosphere. That's why there's probably, I think they call them chemtrails. People say about these chemtrail planes, maybe they're trying to pump these silver crystals or whatever into the air, whatever the conspiracy is, trying to reverse what they've created. And the industry's got so huge now, the air industry, that it's not as if they're just going to stop it. You know, they've realised that maybe they're destroying the atmosphere, but that's why they're putting planes out into the air to try to reverse it, or whatever conspiracy is. But I personally thought that, you know, the fact that all of these planes were grounded during COVID was a good thing, and I thought that it was going to maybe change things a bit. And at the same time, you know, I was quite happy that it meant that I didn't have to travel, because it was also part of the reason why I came to Italy. Was I was getting annoyed with just generally travelling around in England. I used to get annoyed with having to drive everywhere, having to get on public transport, and I just felt that it's just not good for the atmosphere. I mean, I personally, I believe the likes of David Attenborough more than, you know, someone like Nigel Farage. Personally, I believe David Attenborough, I believe scientists. So just, you know, having to travel pisses me off. Basically, having to now get on a plane and having to go back to England now and again. I mean, when I first moved here, I even said to my parents, I said, oh yeah, I'll probably come back once a month and continue working my job that I was doing remotely for a company in London Bridge. I was working remotely up until COVID, and that's when I lost my job, basically. Is as I was one of the people that was working remotely in another country, I was one of the first people to go. But since then, the company has made numerous other people redundant, but that's where everything started to spiral for me, basically. It was COVID. But yeah, that's having to miss my dad's birthday. My mum's birthday is going to be at the end of May, so I'm not going to be there for that. My nephew's birthday, in fact, it's my nephew's birthday today. No, I think it's in 2 days. So it's April, and my nephew's birthday I'm going to miss. I missed my sister's birthday in September. And it's all of these things that, you know, has driven me more and more to madness. Going back, it says feeling like an outsider in your own circles, you know. So I only really technically have one real friend left in England that I go and see and hang out with. I don't really have, I mean, I do have a couple of other friends, but they're people that, to be honest, I kind of avoid, because their lives are kind of a bit of a spiral of chaos. They basically, one of them's just a severe cocaine addict, so every time I see them, everything revolves around cocaine for them. The other one's kind of a bit sort of taken in with it, but at the same time, he's a bit of an alcoholic, so every time I go and see him, it revolves around alcohol and having to drink. But yeah, my mate Dan that I spoke about in another video previously is my only real mate, basically. As much as he has issues with drink and smoking the weed, I mean, I don't mind smoking a bit of weed with him occasionally, but he's always drinking. Whenever I go around there, he's probably on about his 6th or 7th can of beer. He literally just gets home and he just starts drinking. There was previous times when I remember he was like drinking the hard stuff, like drinking whiskey and stuff like that. It's the way he gets himself through his life, and he's had a few breakdowns of relationships. He's been married twice. He's got a child with one of those ex-wives. He's also a teacher, and he has to deal with a whole bunch of stuff going on, his own mental health problems. So he's my only real mate, really. I could just call him occasionally, but sometimes he's a bit busy with his own life sometimes. So calling him from Italy now and again, it's not really a massive option. But, you know, I basically get lonely. I mean, this is my alone time now. I've just dropped my girlfriend off with my daughter. My girlfriend's just had an operation today on her hand. She had some kind of a cyst or something on her thumb, so she's had an operation. She's now got her hand in a sling, so I've had to drop her off at the park. I've been with my daughter for the last 2 days. my challenging 6-year-old daughter. Yesterday wasn't so bad. We managed to find loads of stuff to do throughout the day, but today she's just lazy bones, didn't really want to do anything, was just calling, wanted her mum all day. So my loneliness is basically just sat there playing Barbie. 47-year-old man, unemployed, have nothing else to do but to sit around on the floor playing Barbie with my 6-year-old and watching bloody videos of, that 6-year-olds watch on YouTube. I've not been able to sit here watching things that were of interest to myself. I just locked and lost in my own brain a lot of the time. I've just disconnected, feel disconnected from what is it said in this write-up I've got here, inside jokes, group chats. I mean, we did have a group chat with the family that started during COVID times. Everyone used to have little chats with their family, little quiz nights and stuff with the family. We did that a few times, but now I'm basically the only person that ever posts anything on that group chat now. It's not as if many people ever send me messages. 16-year-old daughter's completely forgotten about her dad now. She's just busy with her friends and schoolwork. She's got GCSEs coming up now. I just completely forgotten about, out of sight, out of mind, or whatever the saying is. So, I'm just lost here, basically, just loneliness. Going back to the language thing, my 6-year-old daughter and my Italian missus just spend the majority of their time just talking amongst themselves in Italian all the time. I'm not even part of those conversations. So just loneliness that I have to go through, of just feeling homesick and lost. Invite friends and family. I mean, I've not got any space really here to invite friends or family. We did in the early days when my daughter was in a crib in our room. I had my mum and my daughter, who was about 8 or 9 at that time. They came and visited for a week or so. But, other than that, find local support, a local support network. I met through my missus works for a UN agency, shall I say, here in Rome. So she knew another Italian girl that had an English husband. We met up with them once, and that was it. We've not met up with them since. They live completely the opposite side of Rome, miles away, and my girlfriend's too scared to drive there. I don't really drive here in Italy because it drives me insane, and they have driven here once, but we don't want to ask them to always be the people that drive to us. So we've not really had a massive relationship with them, which is a shame because he was also a Manchester United supporter, so we went through numerous text message conversations talking about football, but they don't even happen anymore. I found that I was always the person that had to send the messages. He's never sending me messages. Even now, I've purposely not sent any messages to see if he sends me anything, but he hasn't. So there goes that friendship. And I did find another guy who, funnily enough, he lived in the apartment block where my girlfriend's brother lives. And I met him a couple of times. But again, it always seems to be me that has to be the person that sends a message. Even now, he lives like 10 minutes drive away, but he's never once got in contact and said to me, mate, do you fancy going for a beer, or do you fancy coming round to our house? They've actually got a house now with a garden. They've never phoned up and said, mate, do you fancy coming around for a barbecue? The kids can play with each other. His child's only like a year younger than my daughter, but I've not got any real deep, close relationships with mates or anything here. That particular guy, I think he ran a mile because I was a Manchester United supporter and he's a Liverpool supporter. So I gave him bants and stuff on chat, and I think maybe it made him run a mile because I just kept abusing him about being a Liverpool supporter. But I've not heard from him since. I mean, my girlfriend said that she spoke to him the other day, and he said that he thinks he saw me a few times on my bike journey, because sometimes I go out on my bike and it goes actually quite close to where he lives. So yeah, that's a big main one really, is friends and family. I have seen quite a lot of American people around this area, but I think a lot of them are quite religious people. I'm not a massive religious person. There's a great big Mormon church quite close to where I live here, and I suspect that a lot of the Americans I see around here are Mormons, and it just doesn't interest me to be hanging around with really overly religious people that keep quoting stuff to me about the Bible. It's not me. I'm more of a Buddhist. I think I said it in my last video. This is a Buddhist mantra here. They say Buddhists isn't really so much of a religion. It's more of a way of life. It's more sort of the way you follow. I mean, people would probably try to say, oh, it's the same with Christianity and religion, but I see it as like, I don't know, like I'm basically Jimmy Jedi. That's the way I see it. It's just follow that sort of thing. But anyway, I've gone off piste again. I'm kind of ranting, but thankfully I'm just going to stick this. I don't know if anyone else has noticed, but I've been using a particular bit of kit called, I think it's called Gling, Gling. I just put my videos in and it just cuts out all of the ums and 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 silences, and I can just use that to quickly chop through everything, and then I'm just posting them up. I'm not even bothering to do any other editing. I'm just banging them out as quick as quickness. So that would be, what's that, number 4 of missing friends and family. So all those people that just think you're just going to leg it. Think a lot about elderly parents and anyone that you care for within the UK that you might be leaving, basically, especially if you're thinking about going to somewhere like Thailand, which is absolute hours away, Australia and places like that. Think hard about these things, whether or not, if it's going to be really, really that worth it for you. That's it. Laters potatoes.